think it's first year. I got recruited to referee in it. I think my first or second, 2004. So 17 years. So 17 years I've been doing PGLL.
Devon Hack, when I first came in, I believe about 7 or 8 years ago, Devin was always there. Devin, just when it comes to officiating and scheduling, Devin is kind of there and he goes above and beyond most times, and does other things that people typically wouldn't do. So I think just that, along with obviously his knowledge of the rule book, goes a far way. And then everything else that he does away from the rink that helps out the game as well.
First, you don't notice, but slowly you lose your lung capacity. So I think I didn't really notice much until maybe 18 or 19. And I started a more aggressive cough. I seemed to get sick more often than others. Stuff like that. I had to start being more careful. But other than that, and then, of course, then it did get a lot worse, which is what it does. You get better at your technique and your predictions. Like I knew most of the players by the third or fourth year, I'd seen them. So I kind of knew their style, their lanes they liked, if they liked to do the deep passes or not. And so you just take a few more calculations in when you're officiating. You just have to understand a little bit more of the game and the technical side of it. And most of the guys were pretty understanding. They knew, most people started to notice that I wasn't as fast as perhaps some of the other officials, but I was good at maintaining my positioning, so I usually was pretty good at it. Since I was about 13, they started doing double lung transplants in CF patients. They've gotten obviously a lot better. I mean, it was not a great survival rate at first, and not very long outcome. Like you weren't given a lot of time, right? They had troubles with rejection and all sorts of problems. But I mean, I've known about it and I kind of tracked it, and the CF community keeps us pretty involved in it. They keep us up to date on the newest drugs, the newest treatments. But then when you get activated on the list, it's a little bit different because they tell you, well, it's basically a phone call. You can't go more than an hour or so outside of your center because they'll air ambulance you the instant, right? Organs don't survive long outside of a body, so you have a very limited time frame. But I was happy. My lung capacity took a lot longer because of maybe my activities. I was told when I was put off work that I'd be off work for maybe 2 or 3 years. I was 14, so a slight error on calculations there. It seemed I didn't degrade as fast as most would normally degrade. I seemed to hold my lung capacity decently. Like I reffed until it hit about 35 or 36%, and then there was no way I could run at that pace. So yeah, so about 2 years they took me off, and then I just did mentoring and helping out. So like the younger kids, I would mentor them on the floor or in the stands, however they wanted. So, but yeah, and then basically you just wait for a phone call. They do a whole bunch of tests and tell you, well, now you sadly do think that it is when someone passes away that is what triggers the whole series of events, right? And then you get a phone call. I was sitting at breakfast and phone rang and they said, this is University of Alberta. We have lungs for you. And you go through a quick questionnaire and they say, well, now we're bringing the air ambulance. For me, it was from La Ronge was coming down. They were already doing a trip there. So they said, you have about an hour and 45 minutes to get to your airport. And then you'll be here and then we'll begin the surgery pretty much at touchdown. So I was like, okay. Well, at first we were told Stacy couldn't come. My wife could not come in the air ambulance because of COVID restrictions. But they informed me they just lifted them that week. So they said they've decided the spouse can come with you. Otherwise, you need a caregiver for the recovery time. So she would have actually had to have driven up to Edmonton right away. So she could basically be there when I get out of surgery, right? So it was nice that she got to air ambulance, but kind of crappy because you're allowed like one little carry-on, right? And that's it. So she had like a few clothes. I had a couple clothes. And then it's a scramble, right? We had to get a place to live. Everything had to go very, very quickly. So we had great friends and family. So like one of my friends started the drive as soon as the air ambulance called, started the drive from Prince Albert, and the other one started the drive from Saskatoon, so they could keep Stacy company during the surgery. Because how the surgery kind of works is your heart is stopped, kind of like you're not technically alive for about 7 hours. And they know nothing during that 7 hours if it worked or not. And then when they kind of kick your breathing and everything back in is when they find out if it was a success. So I told Stacy, well, why sit around? That's pointless. They're not going to call you in the middle of the surgery. So you won't hear anything till the end. So my friend and my cousin actually took her out and kept her busy for about I guess it was about a 7 hour, I think the surgeon said it took him. He had a slight hiccup. He had trouble figuring out to remove my lungs. He thought they were shorter than what they were. I don't know exactly how that means, but then he had to crack the sternum. So normally he was going in with the assumption he wasn't cracking the sternum because he thought he could do it. He couldn't. So he said when they were trying, they could not remove them. So they had to, it's like a chisel, and they crack your sternum and then they remove it. So yeah, it took a little bit longer than he thought. I can run. I can do everything without, at the end, I couldn't go up the stairs without having to sit down at the top and recuperate. Now I was dragging an oxygen hose around in the house. It was an 80-foot hose that I literally just could go anywhere in the house. So yeah, that's huge relief. I can run, I can lift. I couldn't lift for a little while because they broke the sternum. So for about 6 months, they didn't want me lifting anything. But after that, no, I have no trouble doing anything. I mowed the lawn out here, which I haven't done in 25 or 30 years because inhaling the grass clippings really aggravates the lungs on someone with CF. So I wasn't mowing the lawn for a long time, but I mowed the lawn out here. And yeah, it's totally different. It's completely changes your life.
I would have to probably ballpark figure that Devon Hack has probably done over the course since I've been involved with the league. 225 games, and then maybe at the minor level, it's probably in the thousands.
Oh, PGLL. Oh God. I've done well over probably 200 games in the PGLL. For many years, I was going every weekend. I was paired up with somebody, and we do the entire 3-game stint they did in that city, and then possibly even a game on the way back or something. So we do 4 games in a weekend, and then you do that all season. And then during the week, I usually do 4 midget games. So that's 2 nights a week. You do 2 games each night. So I know in total, I have surpassed 10,000 games officiated in the sports that I do. So I have done a lot of games since the time I was 12 and started doing sports. So I've done a lot of games.